So today we're going to be going over the basics of the innovation project, what it is and how you're going to be graded on the rubric. First of all, a big thank you to everybody who left feedback at our last webinar. We'll be providing a lot of examples today, which is something that you requested. After we go over the rubric, we're also going to watch a video presentation that one of our FLL teams made over the summer. Now, it's not an exact representation of what a live presentation will look like this year, but it is pretty close. So if you joined us for First LEGO League last season, the great thing is that the spirit of the innovation project hasn't changed. You're going to be asked to identify a problem that matters to you, design a solution for your community, and share your idea with experts and for those that can benefit from it. Then you're going to be presenting your problem and your solution to the judges. So this year's theme, in case you haven't started working on it, is how can we motivate people to be more active? If you want to take a look at this comic, it's available on your challenge summary document. Of course, because all of the events are remote this year, the format of the presentation is going to be different. You're going to be meeting with a panel of 2 to 3 judges over Zoom. You're still going to be giving a 5-minute live presentation, and you're still going to have the 5 minutes of Q&A after the presentation. But you're going to be able to use any medium that you'd like for your visuals. When I say any medium, I'm talking about props or making a poster out of whatever materials you have at home. Or you can use Zoom screen share to share any photos or drawings that you've made. One thing to note is that you won't have access to any special Zoom features outside of screen sharing when you're presenting. So I know that Zoom is coming out with some really fancy, what they call Zoom apps that you'll be able to use as a teacher or as a coach. But when you're presenting, you won't have access to any of those. Short video clips are okay as well, but keep in mind that most of your presentation should be live. And unlike previous years, we are not going to ask you for a trifold poster. So if you participated in previous years, that big poster with all of your information that you had to bring into the judging rooms, you no longer have to do that. I would recommend, however, that you take chunks of what you would have put in those posters and put it onto the digital mediums that you're going to be sharing. So the reason why we're having this meeting today is because the innovation project rubric has changed for this year. And the reason why First changed the innovation project rubric is because they want to encourage you to use the engineering design process. So there are many different versions of the engineering design process if you Google it. This is a simplified version that First uses. We're going to start at Explore. When you explore your problem, you're looking to identify the problems that you see, brainstorm your solutions, and then decide which problem and solution you're going to focus your project on. And then you're going to go to the next step, where you create your solution. That means designing it, how does it work, and creating a prototype or a model that you can share with other people. The next step in an engineering design process is usually to test your project. So if you do make a prototype, let's say out of Legos, and you can physically test it, this is the step that you would take next. Of course, sometimes you can't test your project. Let's say you're making an app and you're not actually physically making the app, but you do have a drawing of it. At that point, you would share your drawing with others. Share it with those who can benefit, share it with experts, and gather feedback. Using the feedback that you get, you can then go all the way back to Explore and explore ways that you can improve your solution. So this engineering design process, you can repeat it as many times as you'd like. And the great thing is that every time you repeat this process, your solution gets better and better because somebody tells you about something that you can improve, and then you know exactly what to work on next. It's also really great if your team ever gets stuck and you're not sure what to do next for your innovation project. You can ask yourself, where are we in the engineering design process? The answer will tell you what steps to take next. But let's look at how the engineering design process is reflected in the first LEGO League rubric. We're going to take a close look and a deep dive into each part of the rubric. So the new rubric, if you haven't seen it yet, looks like this. It has 5 distinct sections and 2 lines where you can score in each section. You'll also notice that this year you can score between 1 to 4 points on each line of the rubric. Getting a 1 just means that you're beginning to fulfill the criteria that they're asking for. And getting a 3 means that you have fulfilled the criteria. A 4 means that you've gone above and beyond what was required. Now, if you earn a 4, judges will fill out the rubric to let you know why they thought your team exceeded expectations. So you'll be getting direct feedback on that. So let's look at the different sections of the rubric. The 5 sections should be a little bit familiar to us after we've seen the engineering design process. You'll see words like identify, design, create, iterate, and communicate. We're going to go through each one of these sections and let you know exactly what judges are looking for. One thing to note, even though the rubric is laid out in this order, your presentation doesn't necessarily need to be in this exact order. Your judges will be taking notes throughout your presentation, and they can always go back and fill out the rubric. So let's get started. The first section is identify. Identifying is arguably one of the most important sections of the rubric. So we're going to spend a little more time on it. The problem that you researched is like the main idea of your presentation. Like imagine if your presentation was a YouTube video. If you were 2 minutes into a YouTube video and you're still not sure what the main point of the video is, then it's going to be super hard to pay attention to the details in the rest of it. So you're going to start off your presentation by clearly defining your problem first. And clearly defining your problem can be a little bit tricky. It means you need to narrow down your problem. Let's look at an example of what that means. So you might have asked around and found that your friends don't want to play outside in the winter. That is a problem, but what can you do to solve that problem? If your problem is my friends don't play outside during the winter, your friends might not want to play outside for a lot of different reasons. Is it too cold outside? Does it rain and snow too much? Does it get too dark too quickly outside? In order to narrow down your problem, you can ask a simple question. Why is this a problem? Keep asking why until you get to the heart of it. Let's say you asked, why don't my friends want to play outside during the winter? You might talk to more people. You might talk to students outside of your friend group. And you might end up with a question that looks more like, students in my school are not getting enough exercise in the winter because they're not motivated to go out in the cold weather. Well, now you know that the cold is the reason why they don't want to go outside. It's also good to let judges to know that the bigger problem is that they're not getting enough exercise, rather than say, you not having anybody to play with outside. So getting your problem clearly identified is going to be the most important part of your presentation. Now that you have the problem, the judges are going to be looking for what types of research you did. Whether you're researching your problem or the existing solutions, judges are looking for a wide range of quality resources. Netflix, YouTube, and Wikipedia, they're really good places to start looking, but a wide variety of research would include things like talking to experts, sending out surveys, going to academic journals, and looking for those primary resources. When you're on Netflix and YouTube, if you do see something that's really interesting and very educational, a lot of times they give you the sources in their description or in a little footnote at the corner of the video. You can go to these sources and then include those sources as part of your presentation. So once you actually get to the part where you're asking experts for help, definitely try to contact them early in your process. Sometimes experts really do want to help, but they need a little bit of time to get back to you. If you explain that you're a middle school team working on an innovation project, they are very likely to help you out. So ask your coach to help you send out messages, or ask your parents to help you find people who might be able to help you out with your research, and then include that in your presentation. The next part of the rubric is called design. So now that you've communicated your problem to the judges, they're going to be interested in how your team designed a solution. They're not going to judge you on whether or not your solution works. They're interested in how your team came up with the solution. Did you all participate in the brainstorming process? Or did one person think up a solution and just ran with it? Remember, inclusion is one of First LEGO League's core values. So judges are looking for lots of inclusion here. You can score a 1 on design if you have minimal idea generation across the team. Minimal idea generation just means that one team member comes up with an idea and then everybody just runs with it. It's important to remember that judges can't see what you don't present to them. So if you don't show them or tell them that the team did a lot of brainstorming, they won't know. I personally would recommend documenting your engineering design process as much as possible. I know some teams keep a team meeting journal where one student's responsible for summarizing what the team did at each meeting. That way you won't forget to share how your team came up with your idea. To score a 3, you'll need to show evidence of a lot of ideas across the team. If you haven't used Google Jamboard before, this is what it looks like. Using collaboration tools like Google Jamboard will let you save snippets of your brainstorming process and share it with judges later on. The second part of the design cares about how your team worked together to come up with a solution. It's okay to have somebody on the team leading the design process, but judges want to know that everyone was involved in some way. When you include all members of the team, you get more perspectives on the potential solution. I don't know how many times we've come up with a problem and then somebody has already heard about a solution that the team can build off of. Just remember that everybody has something to contribute, and judges will be looking for the different contributors. Moving on to the create part of the rubric. Once you've decided what your problem and solution are going to be, you have to actually develop your solution. Developing your solution means that you're filling in the details about how your solution works. So judges will want to hear a detailed explanation, and they're also going to want to see a model or a drawing of your solution. For those of you that participated in previous years, the model or drawing is actually a new requirement for your presentation, so don't forget to include it. A solution that isn't developed is no different than an idea. For example, I could tell you that I want to create an app like Uber, but for cats. And you might wonder, how in the world is an Uber for cats supposed to work? Luckily, Uber did develop a solution to deliver cats to people, and they laid out the step-by-step instructions on their websites. People like you and me can then better understand how Uber for cats works. Your job is to explain how your solution works. A 3 is going to mean a lot of development for your innovative solution. Now, you'll also need to create a model or a drawing of your solution. And the reason why we're asking for a model or a drawing is because without it, your solution isn't very clear. It might work, but nobody knows how it works or how to use it. People can't envision it in their heads. With a model, you'll not only be able to help others understand what you're making, but it also helps them share your solution with other people. So whether you're making a model out of Legos, cardboard, or just paper and pencil, the model is what brings your idea to life. The next part of the rubric is pretty straightforward. If you've never come across the word iterate before, it just means that you're repeating your design process. Remember how we said that the more you repeat your engineering design process, the better your solution will be? Well, judges are looking for evidence that you've done so. Did you share your solution? After you shared your solution, did you use the feedback you got to improve it? If you only go through the engineering design process once, it's likely that you'll score a 1 on both parts of this section. Without testing or sharing, you don't know which parts of the solutions could be improved. But with a lot of sharing, you'll get lots of feedback to work off of. As mentioned earlier, keeping a journal of your meetings will help you keep track of how many times you've gone through this engineering design process and how many revisions you've done. All right, we're near the end of the rubric. The last part of the innovation project rubric is communicating. This is where your judges will decide how engaged your presentation is and how clear your solution was. Scoring a 3 means that your presentation was very engaging and your solution was fully clear. Let's take a look at a presentation that would have at least scored a 3. To give you some context, this video that you're going to see is a video that a team created for last year's first LEGO League presentation. The theme was City Shaper, and teams were asked to improve their city.
I'm Idonna.
Hi, I'm Lily.
My name is Isabel.
I'm Emily.
My name is Louise.
I'm Alua.
My name is Jayla.
Together, we are the Tech Talkers.
We live on Roosevelt Island, and we were inspired by our community. Roosevelt Island has over 800 mobility impaired residents. Our project is to find a safe way for people with limited mobility, such as wheelchair users, to evacuate buildings in cases of emergency, such as fires.
According to the 2010 census, 3.5 million Americans use wheelchairs. Imagine yourself, you live in New York. There's no one around. A fire breaks out. The elevators are shut down. And you use a wheelchair. How do you get out?
Scary, isn't it? This is a very real concern not only for wheelchair users, but also people with a mobility impairment. According to the CDC, more than 13 million Americans have a serious mobility impairment. NYC is one of the most dangerous places in America for wheelchair users. And over 500,000 New Yorkers have a mobility-related disability.
On 9/11, in Manhattan, John Abruzza, who relies on a power wheelchair, barely escaped from the 69th floor of Tower 1 of the World Trade Center. We spoke to wheelchair users on our island. LeVar Lawrence and Elif Dufeltas are artists who are paralyzed. They discussed with us their troubles going around NYC or even their own residential building.
There are a whole bunch of ideas for solutions already. EvacuSafe has made wheelchairs and stair climbers with tracks to go up and down stairs. This is the same as Katy, Curtin University, and Skiwo. But those solutions have faults. All of those wheelchairs need other people's help to be usable. They cost a whole lot of money, so many of the wheelchair users where we live can't use them. They are also extremely bulky. The EvacuSafe costs $4,700 and needs other people's help. The ski wheelchair costs $34,000 and is only available in certain parts of Europe.
We spoke with several experts, like Professor Christian Volkmann and Dr. Tanguy Chiaman, who helped us think through different approaches for possible architectural-based solutions.
Tech hoppers came up with a solution. We started with the idea of a ramp. The wall next to the stairs in most buildings has an open space, a place that is perfect to put a ramp that can fold down over the stairs. We found out that typical wheelchair ramps have inclines at angles of 18 degrees or less. However, typical staircases have angles of 30 to 50 degrees, much more extreme. Rolling down at that steep an angle, a wheelchair would go way too fast.
We need to create a way to decrease the angle of incline for the wheelchair to get down the ramp safely. We wanted the mechanism to be able to do a few things. 1. Decrease the slope to make the descent slower and safer. 2. Allow the wheelchair to leave the bottom of the ramp smoothly. 3. Return the mechanism to the top of the stairs for the next user. And 4. Be able to fold the platform into the wall to make the stairs accessible for others. But it's really hard to get a good understanding from just a picture. Let's head over to Emily, who will demonstrate how it works with the 3D model.
The ramp would fold out from the wall like this. The wheelchair is carried down on a platform that allows the wheelchair user to stay upright. The platform uses a spring mechanism, which doesn't require electricity in case the power is shut off during an emergency. The platform also has a part that hangs down vertically. Once the wheelchair reaches the bottom of the stairs, the second ramp allows the wheelchair to roll off the platform at a manageable incline. The platform would then roll back up for the next user once the weight of the wheelchair is off. We were inspired by tape measures, lanyard reels, and dog leashes that can also self-retract.
We shared our solution to the board members of the Roosevelt Island Disability Association, the commissioner of the Department of Building, and several engineers from Cornell Tech, such as Matt Freed and Bill Leon.
With the tech hoppers and the fire escape wheelchair ramp, we can make sure that the fear of being unable to escape in an emergency will no longer limit where people can live or work. Fewer people will live in fear.
All right. So if you do have time, to actually take a look at this presentation with your team, I would recommend that you do and have the rubric in front of you so you can talk about what works about it and what you think could be improved. I think it will help you improve your own presentation as well. So the link will be inside of the presentation when it gets sent out to all coaches. So I do have some top tips from many, many years of coaches letting us know what works best for them. And I wanted to share these before we opened up the floor to all of you. So one of the top tips that I've heard is to ask your friends, families, or teachers to review your presentation with the rubric in front of them, essentially being the judge. They can act as the judge and they can share how they would fill out the rubric. Second, as mentioned, if you do plan to talk to experts, plan out who you want to contact early on so that they have that chance to get back to you. I always tell teams to aim high and go for the companies and organizations that they would love to talk to. If you want to talk to NASA, go on their website and see how you can get in touch with them. Ask friends or family if they can help you make the connection. There are so many people willing to help, but it's your job to reach out. It's also very helpful to have a list of questions that you're going to be asking those experts beforehand so that you know that when you do have their attention, you can ask them exactly what you need to know. Visuals are super effective. Just keep in mind that judges might not be able to see small text or details in your visuals, but in general, showing is still much more effective than telling. And then finally, practice, practice, practice your presentation. You can never practice too much, and it'll make you less nervous on the day of your actual judging. I do have a little bit of a cheat sheet for you all. These are the questions that judges might ask after your presentation. So I do want to let you know that when it comes to training judges, or volunteer judges rather, we ask that they ask you questions that will help them complete your rubric. So let's say you didn't touch upon the design of your presentation quite as much as they would need to fill out your rubric. They would then be able to ask specifically questions about your design. So you can take these questions and use them as your practice prompts when you're doing your practice presentations. So that's all I had for you. I know this was a lot of information to go through. We're going to go straight into questions, but if you do have to leave before we do open floor, please do take a minute to fill out a feedback survey. It does help us improve these webinars, just like the engineering design process says.